Hey guys, Mustached Tom here to review the movie Him. Now this is obviously from the creator of Get Out, Us, and Nope. So, I thought that the first two movies, at least, Get Out and Us, were a bit more compelling, obviously using more of this nuanced approach to sort of gesturing at a story that is beyond just what you see sort of thing going on. Anyway, it was at Nope where it was a little harder to figure out what was going on with the alien thing and what that was supposed to be all about. And now we have Him, which is super focused on football and horror. Now those two things don't typically go together. Now what's interesting about that is that I have seen movies in the past mix horror with fashion or body, like The Substance. So I was interested to see, because I'm not familiar with any other movies that mix horror with a sport in particular, to my knowledge. So I was pretty intrigued to, figure out what was going on, despite me having zero interest in sports, or, very little, at the very most, interest in sports. So anyways, getting into the movie, we begin with watching this family, this young 14-year-old, I believe he is at the time, watching, the celebrity's name is Isaiah White, but I'll call him Isaiah for short. So, obviously, we have a young kid inspired by what he is seeing, named Cam, and once his father is gone, his father clearly heavily wanted him to get into sports, and that is shined later on in the movie when we get some flashbacks as well. But we cut to some time later, and one of the very first things what happens is when we see him practicing or whatever, we see him spot a football that is spinning strangely. He investigates and is hit from behind from this masked individual, and we cut to him in this being scanned, and he's getting stitched up. So we see that his phone is going off. Meanwhile, his family that are all there checking in on him are freaking out, and as he's getting his hair cut, the individual doing it gets a little too close to the actual staples, which connects his freak out. He sees this weird individual separated with white and red face paint, as we then cut to a party. We learn later on that Isaiah is going to retire, which is why this whole thing is sort of kicking off all these talks about all the people in the newscast being like, oh, it's going to take his place, and so on and so forth. That being Cam now being the one moving up in the world, as it were. And of course, with that recognition comes some anti-fans, and boy, are they angry. as he travels out into the middle of the desert somewhere, where he learns some history about from Isaiah. And I feel like this is the director directly talking, sort of, as he talks about how the natives outperformed the white man, I think as he puts it, and then they had to change the rules or something along those lines. But anyways, as he takes him to his personal dome, the training montage begins, as the only way he's going to be allowed into the sport itself is to be checked out by what people consider the GOAT. And I'm using the phrase that they literally use in the movie, so, At any rate, as we see, this movie cuts itself throughout the days, and the days are cut out in representations of what he's meant to learn. So, the first one seems the most harmless, which is have fun. So this is where everything is all hunky-dory, and what I find most interesting, I guess this is a spoiler, is that we never actually see a game played. It's all about the setup to, become just the introduction of this, as into the sport. So this is all preparation. This is the whole point of the movie, is to actually critique the upscaling it takes to get into the system, as it were. So we have a little montage of him tossing into these little nets the football, and Isaiah is probing him about what he would want, rather than he would consider it right now great just to be in a good place, as it were. So he meets, later on, a lady named Elsa. I believe this is the spouse, I think. And we see that Isaiah himself is on this this blood pack regiment, as it were. And this comes back into the movie and actually plays a pretty vital role, as we will learn. So he's left alone in this water bath. And we cut to him being awoken up to the next day, and which is prompted as poise. So he vomits out, and he's running in the desert, left out in the sun, and we see this red-hammered guy. I don't know if it's the guy from before, I don't recall. That's what I just wrote in my notes. Then we get more Isaiah probing, which is, what would you rather have? No injuries for the rest of your career, or to, have the speed to pretty much go all the way, as it were. And he chooses no injury, as he has seen too many previous people in the sport get injured. So, as he is continuously practicing, we get our first little glimpse of a moment. As he's practicing, everyone, including Isaiah, is there. They have this entire team, This other guy sets himself up in front of this thing that the thing that shoots out like a football, where you're like meant to run and catch it. I think is like the point of it, but he's there standing in front of it, aimed at his head. This causes Cam to be distracted, and when he's unable to make the time to make the pass, the football is shot on the guy's head. And it turns into a montage of him trying to, pass it successfully, and every failure causes another football to be shunted into this guy's head. And we see that Cam is like pressuring the rest of his team members, but Isaiah prompts boldly that the burden of all of this is on him. The passer, or whatever the official name of the one who passes the ball, because it's not the receiver. That's the one that catches, obviously. I forget all the terminology in football, but anyway. Point being is that he checks in on the guy, and he's brought into this peculiar green fuming station, I guess, which prompts him into the next day, which is named Leadership. Which we see him get hit the first time, and then we see him on the attack, and these are represented in a more skull, like the camera work shows the skulls like it's like a Mortal Kombat almost situation, akin to that, with him being the hitter the secondary time at least. So as he's done for that day, he listens as he's like walking down these halls. He sees this stray football and backs up into getting flashed bagged over his head. Another red figure. I don't know if this was meant to be a more symbolic or realistic thing, as it kind of just cuts to him answering this old school phone. And throughout the movie, by the way, he's been seen by this doctor who's given him these shots, and it definitely has a heavy emphasis on drugs and pills and all of this stuff as well. And we're definitely seeing some bizarre imagery, like the anti-fan from before. We see her red-coated in blood. I believe that's her. Then we cut to Cam in white, or Isaiah in the sauna. And once he leaves, Isaiah does, Cam stays behind, breasting it up. The lady attacks with these two other individuals, like, skulking about. He manages to fend her off, and Isaiah finishes her off, killing her, by the way. And he goes on this bit about food or freedom. Starvation. Food in the sense of starvation or freedom is more symbolically what he's asking for. And when you are in that position of you are starved, the idea of freedom is obscured by the first choice. It's the illusion of choice is what he's trying to get across here. And this is definitely critiquing something or other about, like, when you're in a certain position. So after they deal with that, killing the lady, that being, they kind of just ignore it or, like, play it off. The other ladies that are, like, a part of his fan club, I guess I'd call it, join in this little party, and Cam kind of gets invested into that whole situation, only for the next day to see Isaiah with a gun, wondering if he hooked up with his girl, as he calls him. And he says that real killers don't care whose feelings they hurt. In reference to him sort of ending that anti-fan's life, I suppose. But we cut to the next day in Resilience. Now this is the shortest one, I think, as they're at the shooting range, and he pretty much hits his target that he's prompted to pretty quickly. The first shot, I believe it is. Another needle in the arm as well, though. And the next day cuts to immediately being Vision. Now this is more practicing for the shoots, the camera glam of it all, you know, the building the narrative, as it were. And this is where he gets into that repetition of repeating how he would let down his father, like, over and over again. And we get two versions of what him could be referring to, obviously. Him of the reference of the father, well, actually three. Him as in the main character Cam himself, or him as in the previous goat, or trying to maintain the goathood, as it were, of Isaiah. So him could be in reference to three different individuals in the context of this one movie. But the next day comes out as he's invited to this party, and the doctor who's been giving him the drugs and the shots all this time is the first person to officially warn Cam to run away from it all, run away from all of this, as we cut to this wild drinking party. And deep into said party, we eventually do see the decapitated head of that very doctor, which that day is prompted by the name of Sacrifice. So it was obviously displaying that this individual began to care too much, wanted him to get out before things got even worse, and was essentially tossed aside in the more literal sense by being decapitated. Obviously in football it would be the more figurative, but this is taking the figurative and turning it to the literal. And then we see that the needle also had run on it, and he needles himself, and it has like adrenaline, I suppose. I think that's what it is. This is where Cam begins to try to attack Isaiah, and he brings up that as they're preparing to fight each other, that he had been receiving blood, Isaiah has, by the previous goat, and that this is the very system that has been actually being kept up from generation to generation of goat after goat. And Cam too was given this blood at a certain juncture of the movie, later on obviously. So they fight, and it goes back into that skull vision we saw earlier as the two pretty much fight each other, and it ends with Cam killing Isaiah, referring to him as a mascot. Obviously the mascot is the fool, or the gimmick, as it were. So, like, the lowest form of flattery, though, you know, mascots over the years have quote unquote stepped it up in their own right, I suppose, based on the footage I have seen anyway. But anyway, at any rate, he steps out as these higher ups are all in their mask and they're tempting him to sign this contract. They even admit here that they were the ones that initially attacked him to get him here. And they go as far as to threaten his family. One of the very few things he said he was doing throughout the movie was, you know, making sure that he can to support his family. And as he refuses to sign it, they prompt the guy behind him to try to take him out. He goes on a revenge rampage, as it were, and attacks them back, killing them in the process. And I'm surprised that the poster is this, because this is pretty much the end of the movie here, what you're seeing on the poster, with him all bloodied up like that, and the cheerleaders like that as well. And so, just to make matters even stranger, there is even a satanic approach, as the last guy he leaves alive is like pulled into this pentagram that you see him standing upon now, but in the movie he's like away from it, and the last guy was like squirming on the pentagram, and he gets like blown up, I guess, by the satanic ritual that they were performing, as he leaves, and that is pretty much the end of the movie, with him avoiding, I guess, you know, becoming whatever it was that they wanted him to become. And that was him. So yeah, I feel like the imagery isn't as intense or as sort of stilted as, like, say, Get Out was, or even Us. So I don't think it's quite on that level. I do see what they're going for, or he was going for. So yeah, like, I get it. As much as I'm not a fan of a football, I still know what the movie's context is trying to point at, and you know, sort of make a sort of statement on drugs, what it takes to pretty much be the leader of that given sport, being football, what it means to train under those circumstances, all of this stuff. So it's covering all of that. So I get it. As far away as I am from it, I don't know if I would call this movie like a jump scare horror film, which I guess is good, because a lot of people are very tired of the typical jump scare horror. I mean, if you're not aware, as someone who's been on the horror genre binge on my channel for as long as I have been, I've covered a ton of movies in the horror genre myself, and as it would turn out, you know, you get your poltergeist, your exorcisms, your possessions, you know, more ghostly type movies. You have your jump scares, which is like what's considered by many to be the lowest form of horror, is like the jump scare, because it's the easiest to achieve. It's the easiest to achieve the jump scare, because all you have to do is shunt something in front of the screen really quickly, and then having had left or whatever. Of course, there is the more foreboding, long, drawn out, not jump scare. Which I think there is a really good, like, I guess a good counter to that. And then you have your your psychological horror, which is like the hardest to achieve. That is horror that makes you think beyond just what the movie, I suppose, like, that is sort of in the realm of this. So I would say that it's reaching high, and I think it is getting its points out there at least. So I think I would give it like a 6 out of 10. I don't think it's as strong as the previous movies. And the thing about it is, not being a football person, I'm not sure like how much more you could add in to sort of say what you need to say while still, presenting a more horrific version of that, of what it means to become that football player and all that. So I'm not entirely sure what you would need to add. Again, I'm completely out of my depth on that one, but at any rate, I do think that my score is a decent one for this movie. And if you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One ahead you to my petition about small YouTubers, second to my PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly, and third to my Discord server. You can join, collab, shield, all that cool stuff for free. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.